10 toes down, stand my ground, chasing this dream, novelty queens.
They got buildings. They got power. Not yet.
Let me just start off by just saying this. This conversation is not about IShowSpeed, really. His African tour is just the moment that brought everything to the surface. What this is really about is the reaction people had while watching it.
Y'all probably wondering why I'm crying. I've been watching Speed streams.
Man, this whole time, bro, they made us think Africa was such a poor country, bro. Such a place you wouldn't want to be at, bro. And Speed is single-handedly changing my perspective on life. Like the music in Africa, the culture, everything, every single aspect of Africa just makes my insides feel so good, bro. And it makes me just want to leave America. Bro, I feel like America is the trap. America is the trap. The American dream is the trap. Everybody else is free, but not free from America. America's the problem, bro.
Because when you look at the shock, the disbelief, and even the confusion from some American viewers, it becomes clear that what we were reacting to wasn't Africa itself. It was the version of Africa we were taught growing up. For a lot of people, this tour challenged ideas they didn't even realize they were carrying. And that's why this matters. Not as entertainment, not as drama, but as a moment that exposed how powerful media narratives really are.
I knew Africa had a bad PR, but I had no idea how bad it was until I started watching the reactions to the famous American streamer IShowSpeed's tour in Africa. And here is my take as an African living in Japan. So many people are shocked that Africa doesn't look like huts and poverty everywhere. And honestly, I'm more shocked that you're shocked. My flabbergasted. First of all, I would like to use this as a reminder that Africa as a continent is huge and you can fit 3 United States in there. 3 of them. The other fact is that Africa is one of the fastest urbanizing continents in the world, and nearly 45% of the population live in urban areas. That's almost half of the continent living in urban areas. And this is urbanization defined by the United Nations, the World Bank, and all of this. Urbanization means cities and towns, not huts. And most of the cities where the majority of the population live in are capitals. And these were the center of activities in the previous empires. And then they became the center of slave trade. And also further in the colonial era became the center where natural resources were exported from. So of course, roads and networks were built around there. And the current modernization actually continued from those points. From a development point of view, you can see how this created a disparity between people living in the rural area and urban area. That's a whole other discussion, but it doesn't mean that the remaining population live in huts. To be frank with you, I'll tell the truth. I myself fell for that bad PR to the level that when I was hearing stories from my grandfather's point of view, he was a son of a big chief of a clan in a certain village. I was fantasizing about going to visit these places with huts and people dancing around.
For a lot of people, especially Americans and even Canadians as well, Africa was introduced to us through a very narrow lens. In schools, in textbooks, in news coverage, Africa was often presented as poor, underdeveloped, and struggling. We saw images of hunger, crisis, and dependency far more than we ever saw growth, innovation, or everyday life. That repetition matters because over time, it creates a single story, one where Africa is always behind and always in need of saving. And when that's the only version you're exposed to, it becomes your default understanding, not because you're trying to be ignorant, but because no one ever showed you anything else. Year after year, the media played a huge role in shaping perception, especially when people don't have first-hand experience. For decades, Africa has been used as a backdrop for tragedy stories and charity campaigns. And while those realities do exist, they are not the full picture. When media repeatedly highlights only struggles, it conditions viewers to associate the entire continent with hardship. What's missing from that narratives are the cities, the technology, the creativity, and the people just living normal lives. And when those parts are erased, viewers aren't informed, they're misinformed. When IShowSpeed went live during his African tour, people saw something they weren't prepared for. They saw modern cities, busy streets, technology, oh my gosh, creators, fans, and community. They saw people who looked like them, sounded like them, laughed like them, and that contrast between what they were seeing live and what they thought Africa was created a lot of shock. But that shock wasn't because Africa suddenly changed. It was because the narrative people were taught was incomplete. The tour didn't create a new Africa, it revealed one that was already there. One of the biggest misunderstandings that moments like this expose is the idea that Africa is one place. Africa is a continent made up of over 50 countries, thousands of languages, cultures, economies, and experiences. Some areas face real challenges, others are striving, and most exist somewhere in between, just like everywhere else in the world. When people try to summarize Africa with a single image or experience, they miss the complexity. And complexity matters because it's what makes any place human. For me, I've been watching a lot of African content creators for a long time, way before IShowSpeed decided to take a tour. So I've actually had the privilege to see different areas and aspects of Africa, though I'm from Jamaica, I live in Canada, but my understanding was updated. But given if it was a few years back, given what was taught on social media, we had a different perspective. So I just kind of wanted to shed a little light on that and put my little 2 cents in. Thank you so much for listening. Have a blessed day. Bye.